Hello and welcome to another top grades made easy video with poetry comparisons. The key thing is to understand the poet's purpose. Let's get started. Now, Emigree is a really interesting poem. It's easy when you see it on the page to kind of think, oh, it's not really very much good. But when you start to analyse the number of purposes the poet has, there's a lot in it. So number one, to explore the difficulties faced by migrants fleeing corrupt political systems in the countries they leave and in the countries they settle in. So there's two cities in the poem, one that she's left and one that she's living in now, and both appear potentially hostile. To show that cities are corrupt and dangerous, and to show how a lone voice can try to achieve political change. That's my interpretation of the last couplet of the poem. And to show how the past is reinterpreted and how memory is precious, even though in this case it changes the facts. That's quite unusual for the poems that we faced, but that does work here. To show how the oppressed can resist tyrannical power, and to show the importance of metaphor, because the whole poem is told through metaphor. Well, there are three poems I'm going to show you can compare it with. Now, obviously, you know by now I'm going to recommend London Should Come Top, because it is a pre-1918 poem and has a really clear, defined structure and form, whereas Emigree doesn't. So London also shows that cities are inherently corrupt, here that private ownership excludes the ordinary man and it makes everybody miserable. That's a really close parallel with the city she's left. The problems with society are caused by those in power, an exact parallel. Here it's the church, the king and parliament. There it's tyrants. We could argue that it's the patriarchy in both, because we've got a female voice here who's being oppressed, and the tyrants are presumably male. To show the damaging effects on society when it exploits its children. Well, that's why this poem is all about her childhood memories, and she has been exploited by having to leave her country and become a migrant. So lots of parallels there. Similarly, checking out my history. To show how political power can be resisted by the oppressed. That links again to the final line of Emigree. To celebrate poetry as a form of protest and a way to acquire political power or gain social advantage. So that's the purpose of writing this poem, and we can consider whether this poem is also written in order to protest against the way we discriminate against foreigners who need to come here because of war. A very topical one, that. I wouldn't be surprised if this one in our days of Brexit didn't come up as the chosen poem. And to explore the immigrant experience and ask for greater acceptance. So really close parallels there. So I would be really happy to use checking out my history, because you can say a lot about its structure and form in the way that it interweaves a kind of childlike nursery rhyme to discredit the British voice and a more free verse to have an Afro-Caribbean voice. Now, amazingly, there are just as many parallels with tissue. And I'm going to advise you, obviously, not to do tissue because it doesn't have a strong form or structure. However, if this is the named poem in the exam, then why not use Emigree to compare it to? So to ask for tolerance and cultural and religious understanding, well, this is definitely to ask for tolerance and understanding. To ask for equality for all people, that would definitely resonate with the two cultures, one that she's left and one that she's moved to. To explore the importance of family and family history. And in this poem, it's noticeable that she is a child on her own. There's no reference to mother or father, and we get the sense that she's lost them. Either been orphaned before she came over, or her parents are still stuck in whatever the old city was, and they've only been able to smuggle her out. And the other thing is, this is a poem full of metaphor, just like that one. And so there is a stylistic and structural connection. So that would also be a really good comparison. And if you'd like to see some essays comparing poems, check out the video appearing on the left, and on the right, videos showing you how to use the FOSS method, which gets you the top grade every time.